Hello fellow cine enthusiasts, my name is Christina and welcome to another Let's Get Reels movie review. Today's movie I will be reviewing is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I know it's really silly, but bear with me while I go on this adventure with you. I am reviewing Night at the Museum! Yay! It makes my nerd heart and museum-loving heart very happy to be doing this review. If you have never seen Night at the Museum, it is about a guy named Larry Daly, played by Ben Stiller, who really can't get himself together. He is one of those adults that's kind of not really made anything of himself, has never really had a steady job. He's always trying to come up with new ideas and inventions, and they've unfortunately failed for him. And he puts in an application for a security guard at the Museum of Natural History in New York City. And despite his having a not that great resume, he gets the job. He's hired by an old guy named Cecil, played by Dick Van Dyke, and another security guard named Gus, who is played by Mickey Rooney. And he is the new night guard, and something really cool happens at night. All the things, all the exhibits and everything come to life at night, including the T-Rex and Attila the Hun and a head from Easter Island and a very cool statue of Theodore Roosevelt, played by Robin Williams. And it's a little chaotic for a while until Larry figures out how to tame everyone, and he finds out that everybody comes alive because of a tablet from an exhibit in the Egyptian wing for this one pharaoh, Akhmun Ra, and the tablet is taken from the museum one night and nothing works, and it becomes this little bit of a screwy plot as to why the tablet is taken and how it works. And Night at the Museum is one of my dreams. I am a museum professional. I have a degree in museum registration, and I just recently went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and at this point in time of my review, they have a great fashion exhibit on Jacqueline de Roubaix. I believe that's how you pronounce her name, and it was absolutely stunning. I love fashion history and I love art history and I love photography. Those are my three really great passions of study. I love just learning about old photography from like the early years up until about like 1960, and fashion history is from the mid 1800s to about, again, 1960. And art history for me is just my concentration of what I like to learn in art history is from the 1860s to about 1945, like during the war and everything like that. And one of the reasons Night at the Museum is such a fantastic creative story is because who wouldn't want to go to a museum and get to, speak to a work of art, or, see, if you go to the Museum of Natural History, see the whale, the big whale on the ceiling, and one of the exhibits, come to life and see them swim around and have all these animals move around, or even like a Night at the Museum, you get to see a big T-Rex come and, play with you like he does in the movie, like Rexy does. He's almost like a dog, this big skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and you have Attila the Hun coming around, and even Sacagawea, and who wouldn't want to talk to Theodore Roosevelt and ask him all kinds of questions. If I could pick any work of art to come alive at night and talk and be real, I would pick my favorite work of art, Madame X by John Singer Sargent. She is such a great painting, and I talk about her as if, the painting is a real person. She was a real person. I won't go into full detail. I'll encourage you to go and look her up. I would just love to know and talk about her. I highly doubt if you do look her up, she's a little saucy and probably has a lot of attitude. She probably would not give me the time of day, but I absolutely adore her, and I would just want to know what it was like working with Sargent when being around in the Belle Epoque of France, and just everything. Oh my god, I'm like getting so excited just thinking about talking to her. And if pictures could come and move again, I would love to have a discussion with Lee Miller. Lee Miller is one of my all-time favorite photographers. I absolutely adore her. Very, very interesting woman. Go and look her up. She was fascinating, had an absolutely fascinating life. So I'd want to do that. I'd want to talk to all my favorite people. Here's a thought. How cool would it be to get to see a Van Gogh painting move? Think of Starry Night and it moving. Think about like his cypress trees and how they would move, and portraits and how they would move, and that's what I really like about Night at the Museum, is that it really is very creative, and I think it's great for not only just kids to watch, but for adults like me to sit and watch, and it makes it more interesting and more fun to go to a museum and think about, well, what if this were to move, how would it move, and really, really look at it and let your imagination run. I love that. I love Night at the Museum. After I saw this, I was like, this is amazing. It's my dream come true. I'm not a fan of natural history. I'm terrified of the Museum of Natural History, actually. Stuffed animals, especially the reptiles and all the fish and all that stuff. I'm like, last time I was there, I was really little and I almost had a heart attack. So I lean more towards art, but I'm sure for little kids, the Museum of Natural History is a really, really cool place to explore visually and everything. So there was my ramble. It wasn't so much about Night at the Museum, but I hope maybe I inspired some of you to go to a museum and really look at, not if you go to an art museum, look at art differently, or if you go to a natural history museum, look at the animals and everything, and just all this once living thing and all the dioramas, and see them differently. Picture how did they move, how did they act, and if you go to an art museum, think about all the things you've learned throughout your history classes from the time you were little to now. I don't know how old you are, maybe you're my age, and you think about everything you've learned in history and apply it to the art and be like, okay, well, during this time period they were doing this, like the colonial times, or you learn about the Industrial Revolution, you apply that to when you're looking at art. And I hope in your mind you see, oh wow, that's really cool, so at this time this was happening and all that. Again, rambling, I apologize. This is more about me obsessing over being a museum nerd and everything, and just, like I said, loving history and loving art and loving museums. I have to give the writing and the directing a big shout out. The writers are Robert Ben Grant and Thomas Lennon, who were in Reno 911, the show on Comedy Central a few years ago. If you guys have ever seen that, you know that they have crazy brains, and if you've never seen Reno 911, go find it, go watch it, because it is like the most hysterical show you'll ever see. And I love their imagination and how they wrote it. I mean, you kind of have to have the mentality of a kid and really have that wonderment to be able to write something like this, like Night at the Museum, and really let it go. The cast was pretty cool. I'm not a big fan of Ben Stiller, but I thought he was really good. You have so many people I'm not even going to name. I'm sure you guys can go look that up on IMDb. Robin Williams God, he was just he was so amazing. I loved him as Teddy Roosevelt. I don't think anybody could have played him any better and any more perfect. It was like the perfect bit of like comedy, and just like he was like a little kid. He played Teddy as like kind of this kid in a way. Well, I hope you liked my somewhat review of Night at the Museum. I understand, and as I said quite a few times, I rambled on about museums and artwork and everything, but if you did happen to like this in any way, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you've seen this movie, and if you really, really like museums, please let me know. I am dying to talk about museums with people. Not only do I love talking about movies, I just love talking about museums and art and going and the experience of going to museums. So please, please, please let me know down below. And you can always reach out to me on my social media pages, which are also linked down below. And I do encourage you to go check out my Instagram account because I posted quite a few pictures of the Jacqueline de Roubaix exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art that is currently going on right now. And as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future movie reviews. And as always, keep watching movies and stay absolutely fabulous.